How's it? Welcome along to Baz's Garage, where we today we're going to teach you how to measure up your engine to find out whether it's worn in the cylinder, whether you need to rebore it, or put new pistons and rings and that sort of stuff in it. So effectively, we've got here, this is the mower out of Belinda's mower, and it is a 31 cubic inch single. This is the piston that came out of it. It's got a nice shiny rod on it. We said 2831, so again it wouldn't fit into a 33. It's got to be a 31 or a 28 this piston, this rod fits into. Now the reason this rod is in here is because about 6 years ago I made a bit of a blue when I pulled the governor out of this engine, and they've got these things here. So this here is a sort of a flappy paddle thing. This is what flicks up the oil inside there. Now unfortunately I forgot to put it in when I pulled the thing apart and pulled the governor out, and wondered why the engine stopped going, and I wondered why it had picked up on the rod. So that's why it's got a shiniest rod in it, because I had to replace it. There's actually a trophy up here at Bay Waikato, which is the Dork of the Day trophy, which has one of these on it, and the reason for that is because I made a huge cock up a few years ago. So remember, always put that bit back in again. Anyway, so this engine, as we say, is a 31 cubic inch. Now, the specifications I have for this are that it should be 3.563 inches across the bore, or it should be about 90.45 millimeters. So what we're going to check on this is we're going to check the width of it both directions, and we want to check it in 3 different places, because normally if it wears, the wear's not going to be at the bottom, but there's going to be at the top, so it could wear in a taper. Or it could wear in an oval. So you need some specialist tools to do this. So this thing here, it's called a bore gauge. What this does is you undo it, and it's got little springs in it, and the springs will spring out, and then once we've got the springs to the right size, we put them into the micrometer here, and then we can measure up what the size is, so we know exactly what the bore is. Now these are specialist tools. You probably could buy them. If you haven't got them, obviously you won't be able to do this particular part, but if you have got them, it's relatively easy to do, just to give you a rough sort of a measure up. So the first thing that we're going to do is we need to measure this bore in 3 different places: just below the top, right at the bottom, and in the middle. So a good plan to do, which actually Belinda came up with before, normally I've just put them in and just sort of held them and done the thing, but a good idea is to get yourself a rule like this, measure down how far you want to go for the first one, put the rule in, put your hand up on the inside of here, and put a little line at the bottom of it, and then it gives you a point on the bore where you can actually put it. Now I've done one, and I'll do one on the other side as well, like that. What that means is now that when you get the bore gauge, I'm going to put my eyes on because I can't see too well, you put the bore gauge in here and loosen it off, and then you've got to put it on the line on both sides. So hopefully I can see the line which is there and the line which is there. Hold this straight up and down, and this is a skill that takes a long time to get the hang of, and I haven't got the hang of it, but we can get it close enough to find out. So that's pretty well straight up and down and level on the 2 lines that we had. So then you tighten this little bit up here, and then you take it out and you bring it over here to the micrometer. Now once we've got this into here, we put this in between, and this is why you need a little holder to hold the micrometer, because it's pretty hard. You've got to have 3 pairs of hands, and then you basically just tighten up this till it clicks. All right, and then I can do the measurement, and the measurement is actually on this side, so we can have a measure along here. So this is 90.55 actually. 90.55 is pretty close. So 90.55, and so what we'd normally do is we'd normally write down what that is on the top, and then we're going to go across this way. So we'll do the same thing, but we need to go acrosswise now, and we'll put it on the lines that I've already got in there, do the same thing, and then we'll measure this one, and we'll see what we get with this one. Generally, it's a good idea to do this 2 or 3 times to get it within it. So that's that's 90.5 as well. Okay, so and then you do it at the bottom of the bore. So you're going to come right down to the bottom of the bore down here, do the same thing, and then you're going to do it acrossways. then you're going to come halfway up and do the same thing. And what we're looking for is to see whether you've got a taper or an out of round in the bore. Now, I've already done the measuring on this engine, and this is supposed to be 90.45 is the nominal size when it first started. So 90.4, and it actually is 90.45 at the bottom. It's 90.46 halfway up, and 90.49 or 40.5 at the top. So this is actually not worn very much at all. So it's not worn, if I draw you a little picture on here, so it's not worn with much of a taper like this. So this is exaggerated, so this is the top. Whoa, upside down writing. And this is the bottom. So we've got measurements here, here, and here. And there is a maximum amount you're allowed to have variation. On this one it's 0.08 of a millimetre, and we're down at about 0.4. So this engine, although it's quite an old engine, we've run the right oil in it. We've changed the oil all the time, and it's still in pretty good condition, but it is a bit worn, so I'm going to hone it, and I'm going to put new rings in it, and then that will make it a lot better. The other thing we're going to show you while you're here is checking your ring gap. So you take your rings off your pistons, you put them into the actual bore here, you grab your piston, and you push it down so it's sitting a little bit down the bore, but sitting flat. And then you get yourself some feeler gauges like these, and you want to measure this gap here. So you can see there's a gap between the ring. Now, interestingly enough, it says this should be under a millimetre gap. So I've got two feeler blades here, and it actually adds up to be 6 and 5, which is 11. And this actually fits just inside. So this ring is worn. So we want to replace the rings, and we want to give the bore a hone, and I think what it'll do is it'll just tidy up. Now you do remember we did some work on this, we pressurised it to find out how much was leaking, and the leakage wasn't too much, so this reiterates the fact that the engine is actually in quite good condition, but putting the new rings into it, giving a hone, might just get that leakage back a little bit more. We'll grab a little bit more compression, and it will actually go slightly better than it was. So what we've done today is we've shown you how to measure it. I've measured my other engine, the Class 1 engine, and that's right on the edge of needing to be rebored. So what I'm going to do with that one is I'm actually going to try it with new rings in it, but if it blows lots of smoke, I have to look into reboring it. I haven't bothered to rebore an engine before, so we'll try it out and see. So effectively, you know how to check your rings, you know how to check your bore, and it means that you know whether your engine is any good or not. So that's about it for Baz's Auto today. So see you next time, Baz's Garage.